Howdy doody. Howdy doody. Am I actually live? It doesn't show anything on my thing. Oh, sevens, I guess. Oh, I don't mind. Why am I still playing Pizza Sim? Well, I just hate that I kept accidentally going to the night. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to do this. Stop that. Well, we're using May now. Is the correct type? That's Pegwit. Off by an inch. Oh, damn it. Wait, do I have someone up here? Got Ricky Ware. Alexander. Okay, let's go with Alexander the Great.
All the hard work, sacrifice, it's all coming down to this.
I didn't sweat and cry all those tears and drip all that blood for no reason.
My dream is to be the UFC champion, nothing else.
I've got to destroy whoever they put in front of me. I'm not gonna let someone hijack my destiny.
Every one of these fighters here honestly believe that this is their time, and they're right. This is their time. This is their opportunity to reach out and grab everything they ever dreamed of. Welcome to The Ultimate Fighter.
World's slowest body kick just dropped in there. There's no saying he was off balance or anything like that. No, it landed clean. See that replay. Bam! It didn't even hit him. Well, was just tired of getting punched in the face. You just watch this. Just bam.
Winner by knockout and moving into the house.
Electronics and take a while to beat if you don't really get the mechanics. Spawning into this level, I died multiple times because I didn't know what to do. Foxy would just kill me instantly.
Autumn 6.
Get pretty
Fuck
mad.
me
You
in.
have to find 5 objects, and unlike the other levels, Foxy is in a very small and confined space, which actually makes things a lot easier because the objects are very easy to spot, and you can pretty much get this level done first go as long as you learn what Foxy mechanics are. There was a bunch of times where Foxy would just run up behind me and I didn't know where he was, and this led to a few screams, but eventually I would get It's the Joy of Creation Reborn. However, we actually have one more thing to do, and this is the gallery, where we see all the animatronics, and these things just look absolutely terrifying. The gallery section actually has a little secret. You get teleported to a random section on the map, and here you just kind of just get stalked by this random entity. It's pretty much the animatronics on their songs, I'm assuming. And I just kind of walked through here just really nervous because I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. So one dark hallway later, I would get jump scared by Foxy and my game would crash. So that would very much conclude the Joy of Creation Reborn. A overall very terrifying experience. This game gets a scare rating of 1 out of 5, but that doesn't mean I don't think it's scary, it just means that the other games are even scarier. So let's get into it. So this next game is called Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. This game takes place in the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. You, the night guard, have to face the animatronics, which have been deactivated. However, suddenly throughout the night you will see they are so deactivated. They move a lot. And this game is a very different take to any FNAF game I've ever played. First of all, the menu screen, it looks something out of a just completely broken, and it looks like you shouldn't be playing this game straight off the bat. It looks like it's some sort of malware, but you get into the game and all of a sudden you have to just kind of rely on your instinctive skills. You have a camera system that pretty much acts the same as FNAF 1, but the difference is the camera has a timer. So you can't be on the camera all game. You have to kind of go through the cameras, and you have to go from camera 1 to camera 7, and then you have to restart from the beginning. So you have to use the switch timer effectively. Furthermore, you have an alarm, and this essentially works as a kind of distraction. However, the animatronics will eventually get used to the alarm and will react to it. So you have to use the alarm sparingly. Furthermore, we have a light source, and we also have a shot by the animatronics. Now, I was kind of getting used to the game, seeing what worked, what didn't work, and eventually I would see the first movement in this game, which was Bonnie, and Bonnie began to move through the cameras. I was really taken back and unnerved by the way they portray the animatronics in this game. They are just so alien and so strange the way they move and the poses they make on the cameras. Eventually, I would see Bonnie get toward my office. I saw Bonnie on cam 6 and he just randomly disappeared. So I checked my window light and, well, Bonnie appeared. And this took me back a little bit because this was just terrifying. Now the animatronic kind of snoops in and to shut the door as soon as possible. This reset button. However, Bonnie would rapidly go back toward my office. And with this game, reset the animatronic, their AI increases in difficulty, so now Bonnie is going to be way larger than the rest. And once it's back at cam 6, and we expect a actually really decent jump scare, you just get completely taken off guard. And this caused me to run this was much be a lot for night 2. We have two products. We have Cupcake and we have Chica. Both classic electronics, and like how they used to be that one electronics. Same anyways, is like Chica is kind of like the opposite of the mechanics that you use into your conventions not to work with this system. And again, that will also be in when Chica does this, you can hear a bunch of better dust pots and getting tossed around. You can also see on the stage camera, Chica will literally move through the camera and run toward the office. Just terrifying stuff. And when Chica gets to the office, she will make her appearance known by literally having her head inside your office, meaning to then react by shutting the door. was definitely the hardest part of it. And then we have Cupcake, who is pretty simple. And Chica toward the office is terrifying stuff. And when Chica gets to the office, she will make her appearance known by literally having her head inside your office. You need to then react quickly by shutting the door, and this will get rid of Chica. She's very finicky and was definitely the hardest part of it. And then we have Cupcake, who is pretty similar to Chica. On Camp 7, Cupcake will eventually be seen at around the spot right here, and eventually Cupcake will move to the second phase, where Cupcake will be seen kind of just moving around in the camera. By this point, we need to sound the alarm. This will get very simple. This will take me a while to actually realize Cupcake was an animatronic. I at first didn't know how to get rid of Cupcake until a bunch of attempts later, where I figured Cupcake and acts differently to the others. So that was fun. But anyways, this night was kind of brutal. It took me upwards of an hour to beat this night. I found learning Bonnie's movements to be quite difficult because Bonnie is a little bit different. You see Bonnie in you need to sound it a bit more. I actually didn't know this one, so I would get randomly by Bonnie, and I would just be so confused what I write. But eventually I learned that, well, Bonnie will make moves to the office, and you need to sound the alarm. So that was fun. With all the mechanics down pat, eventually I would complete that too, and this included graveyard shifts at Freddy's. This game is in its demo phase, but nonetheless, it is a very polished out game, and I cannot wait until this game is released. This is going to be my comeback. So this game gets a 3 out of 5 stars on this year rating. So let's move on to our next game. So this next game is Juniors, and this is one of the most polished games. So that's with let's go straight into the start of this game. Immediately here with a cutscene, and here we are transported into a and here we sit to this random place in this random space, and we see some stuff like this floating crane just with some back rooms, just some very creepy stuff. Someone is living here, and the person's name is Bulber. This is a lost spirit who has been basically sent to this place by some random spirit who holds the Junior's attraction, and our job is to, well, capture this ghost or this spirit. So Paul Bear sends us into the night shift, and I don't know how the laws of physics work in this dimension, but we essentially can go into and back from the real world, which is pretty awesome. Nonetheless, the animatronics here are very creepy. You are basically playing Among Us in that you have to find the animatronic who is responsible for being the ghost or which animatronic is possessed. We have a camera feed which, well, allows us to monitor the animatronics and to see if they move or make any suspicious activities. Some suspicious things can be like flickering lights, handprints on the camera itself, or any movements that are like sudden or suspicious. And here is where we need to kind of find and track that animatronic. We can also have the animatronics repaired, because each night the animatronics have a set amount of repair status. If this reaches 0, then you get jump scared, so you have to keep all the animatronics as high as possible. As they get low, then they will kill you. So this night I was kind of getting used to the sounds and the kind of visual cues the animatronics make. My first run went pretty badly as I was killed by the marionette, because something the game doesn't tell you is the marionette actually has a music box, and if you hear this and you see suspicious activity, then the marionette was possessed. So this killed me, and the jump scares themselves are horrific. And I also have to say huge props to these designs. They are just the most creepy animatronic designs I've seen in ages. These things are terrifying. But eventually I would have guessed the correct animatronic twice, and this would allow me to complete night 1, and now we have to go into night 2. And here we find a little bit more about what happened to Paul Bear, and he gives us info on who he is, how we got here, and what our main objective is. And again, we need to find the ghost that is possessing the pizzeria, and we also are hinted at the basement, which is where the ghost resides. However, now we have another entity to find, so it is a little bit harder, and this is where I used the repairs for the first time. And they're very quick sections where you are put in a back room, and you have to grab pop it into the bin and pop the spare part and chuck it into the animatronic. Pretty simple. This would allow me to essentially get me further into the night and also be able to grab more info on the animatronics. I would also see some fingerprints, and this would kind of cue me in to who is responsible, and this would allow me to find the animatronic responsible for making all the paranormal activity. I also found that Balloon Boy is the only animatronic that isn't in the cameras. To find Balloon Boy, you have to go to this ability and you have to check for his percentage, and if it's glitching out, then it's Balloon Boy. I made my way to the final animatronic, but however, I had Chica and Foxy running out of percentage, which means I was very close to dying. So I would wait until the animatronic was in the pizzeria, and by this point it was just a guessing game. And I chose to guess Freddy as he had the highest percentage in my game, and what do you know, Freddy was possessed. So I barely made it out of night 2, so that was pretty interesting. This would conclude the night, and well, we would grab a VHS tape, and this was pretty alarming because I didn't know that these were even in the game, so getting one was kind of off-putting, but I chose to watch it out of my own reluctancy, and this would give me a bunch of lore details on what was going on. The video itself is a sketch of Freddy, well, a Play-Doh version of Freddy, and he seems to be holding a leg and bringing it to someone. The next night would give us some information on what was actually going on, and it seems that Freddy was actually collecting parts for this thing called the Mangle, who is pretty much the main antagonist of this game. So our task here was to go back to Juniors and to really find out what was happening.
Go for the fucking takedown. Go for the takedown.
Find 4 animatronics that were possessed, and it was a little bit harder, but the night itself was pretty manageable. I would die a few times due to, well, me being pretty bad at the game, but eventually I would find out what cues are actually in the game without it telling you. Like, for example, if the camera gets shut off, this could mean that there's an animatronic that is possessed in that camera feed, and finding out new ways to find if animatronics were possessed helped me a lot. On my third go, I would beat night 3, and this would give us a new VHS tape. And here we see Bonnie and Freddy just in this little room talking to each other about something. During the night, Bonnie grabs another part and brings it toward the basement, again fueling into that mystery. This night, I couldn't find Paul Bear, so I had a little search for Paul Bear to see where he was. So this had me go outside the boundaries of the Barrens, which is what this location is.
Fuck you, Adams.
Suddenly, I kind of lost track where I was going, and I was kind of lost down here. Suddenly, some noise started to sound, and I was very alarmed. And by looking behind me, I would see a spirit chase me down, and this was so scary because I was not expecting this to happen. So with that terrifying start to the night, I would actually begin the night by looking for animatronics. This night was a lot like night 3, but just with the addition of another animatronic to find. I would eventually complete the night, and this would lead us into night 5. But we have another VHS tape to watch. In this tape we have Chica, and Chica seems to awake in the middle of the night. She grabs a part and is seen walking to the basement, and again it is alluded that the Mangle is some sort of amalgamation of all the animatronics. The last night is labelled the last night of sanity, kind of alluding to what happened in night 6. But this night we have 2 more animatronics to spot, and this would leave us with 7 animatronics to find in one night. So I would get straight onto the cameras and begin to search for the animatronics. And this night was very hard. The good thing is that when you begin the night, the spirit spawns in straight away, so it gives you more time to actually search for the spirit. But then again, it is a way harder night, and mixed with all the animatronics percentage going down faster, it makes night 5 pretty difficult. So I had a bunch of deaths, but this would make me better at finding the animatronics. So with my successful run, I had a bunch of close calls. But this last night was very close. All of my animatronics were low on percentage, so this was just a matter of guessing. And I had Chica on like 10%, and when the animatronics spawned, I just went, you know what, let's go Foxy, and somehow it was the right animatronic, and this would conclude night 5, and this was where we finished the main game. A final cutscene of the, well, all the animatronics being brought to this one place, and this entity being showed fully. And now it was time to actually enter the basement with night 6. We say our goodbyes to Paul Bear, and we
Excellent
enter
guard work
the
today,
basement,
man. I think
where
you're
we
getting
are
a new
met
belt.
with a very sick cutscene of the FNAF 2 trailer, but redone. This was something that I was not expecting. They pulled the FNAF 2 Bonnie trailer, and this was to show that we are now in the FNAF 2 building. This was insane. Like, when I realized that they were pulling this off and I saw Bonnie's eye glow, I was fully just ecstatic, because I knew at that exact moment we would be sent to the FNAF 2 pizzeria. And this basically acts like normal FNAF 2. You have the music box, which needs to be round, and you have all the animatronics, just not including the toy ones. The building itself looks run down, and instead of having a Freddy mask, this time you have a Bonnie mask, so that was pretty cool. The animatronics would also look more withered in this version, kind of looking like their FNAF 2 counterparts, so that was also another cool detail. I would eventually get to 2 AM, and this would introduce the Mangle, who is the final animatronic in this game. The music begins to get louder, and the reveal of the Mangle was very sick, and to have Mangle as the final animatronic was just so awesome to see. We would now have to face off against the Spirit and Mangle herself, and this would make a very tenseful final act of the night. How Mangle works is she will spawn in a bunch of owls randomly. If an owl does spawn in, you have to use the mask, and this will get rid of any owls in your office. Mangle is pretty simple. She will spawn in the hallway in front of you, and if she does this, she will do a massive roar, and you have to use the flashlight to basically scare her off. And lastly, the Spirit, how she works is you have to go on the camera, and if you see her, you have to simply use the flashlight, and this will make her go away. This night was super tense, but eventually I would beat the night. This was what in this game. You get this very terrifying cutscene of the Spirit herself, and she tells you to let her in, but we refuse to let this happen, and we wake up in the void, where the Spirit is now in the area that we reside in, and she immediately attacks Colbert. Us being the absolute legends that we are, we get rid of the Spirit, and now we would conclude the main events of the game. To end off, we see a little text saying that he
that's an illegal blow.
5 years later, and this would kind of hint at FNAF 2. So this was actually a prequel to that game, which I found really awesome. And then we would get this super chill ending of us and Paul Bear chilling in the void. That about wraps up Juniors, and we get to see the cut content in the extras menu. We get to see all of the characters, behind the scenes, stuff like that. The game itself was originally going to be a lot different. The game we got was kind of just a second interpretation of what was originally planned. We also get this super funny picture of the scrap baby mask, which I find absolutely hilarious. So yeah, that concludes Juniors. I will give Juniors a solid scare rating of 4 out of 5. This game is one of the most polished FNAF fan games I've ever played. So for that, I am super impressed. So with that, let's get into the big boys. Let's go. This game is called Those Nights at Fredbear's. Your word is formaldehyde.
Can you use it in a sentence?
As you're sitting in your there's a new destiny. Before starting this game, we get a really prominent warning that there's jump scares, flashing lights, loud noises, and you can already tell this game is going to be the scariest one just by the warning itself. So the first thing we see is a cutscene, and the camera zooms into the front. There's diner, and we get some dialogue on what's happening in the pizzeria. Essentially, some guy is, doing some stuff, and basically we need to investigate what's happening inside the animatronic. So we get into the establishment, we grab our flashlight, and our job now is to find the office. This place is massive. I remember first spawning in and being absolutely just stunned on how big the building is. Like, scale-wise, this game is just huge. So, yeah, we get to the office and we find a nice camera feed, which gives us all the cameras around the building. This building has a whopping 23 cameras. Like, looking at the map, this building is humongous. Like, why do you need 23 different rooms in a Fredbear pizzeria? It makes no sense, but nonetheless, to conclude the shift, I would get familiar with the layout of the building, and by this point, it was time to leave and begin our night shift. So we enter our first night, and the phone guy gives us a little quick demo on what we need to look out for. He's not really too helpful. In fact, he's the complete opposite. He pretty much just tells us good luck, and that's about it. I found some sticky notes around the office, and these sticky notes pretty much outlined what I was doing, kind of what to look out for, glowing eyes, not good, stuff like that. Everything was all nice until around 3 a.m. hit, and I noticed that my generator usage was becoming a lot higher as I was closing doors because I was panicking, and this led to my actual power running low. So I had to make a very quick dart toward the generator room. I got to the room and my power had already drained. I was being very cautious, and this actually led to my downfall because now I had to face whatever happened at the power outage sequence. So I ran frantically to a corner and I screamed. So I re-attempted my one, and this time I actually went to the generator earlier to refill it, and this worked. So I went back to my office, and as I was going back, someone was actually already in the office, and this was Bonnie. So I started screaming and running the other way, and I was just hoping that this would be not the night. So I looped Bonnie around the building and went back to my office and shut both doors. This got rid of the animatronic threat. I then remained in the office for the rest of the night, checking both
Let's see that again.
Often, and this would get me the completion. The next night, we are basically told that we have no jurisdiction and that us seeing
With
that
the official decision,
nothing,
here is Bruce
and
Buffer.
that's great because we continue to ship like nothing happened. So, as I said before, phone guy, pretty useless, but nonetheless, new night, and now we have to say hello to Spring Freddy. This animatronic is essentially the same as Bonnie, but now we have two animatronics to take care of, so it's a little hard. So for this night, what I actually did is I went through the generator room, I just refilled the generator, and I noticed that with these two animatronics, they only go toward the office. So me using my massive brain, I stayed in the generator room and camped there because I literally had nothing to worry about. So this worked, and I got the night completion pretty easily. And you can say this is cheating, but as the nights continue, this won't be useful for me. I would make my way toward the generator room, and my power was getting pretty low. As I was making my way toward the room, Spring Bonnie saw me, and this initiated a chase where I was running around the pizzeria just headlessly, and this eventually led me to Spring Freddy, and I got pretty much crushed by the two animatronics. So, good start tonight. I also forgot to mention that there's a new animatronic in this night, which is Plushtrap. The way Plushtrap works is he will go from shelf to shelf until he reaches the generator room. At this point, he completely deactivate the generator, and if you haven't already gotten rid of Plushtrap, he will essentially give you a game over, so don't do that. The way I dealt with Plushtrap is I
And for now,
literally grabbed him and I
watch
chucked him to a
the
shelf
Ultimate
across
Fighter
the pizzeria. So
right